Hey everyone, Zeddy here today with a brand new video, and we are concluding our review series on Ashes of Outland, and we'll be taking a look at the neutral minions. Again, I'll be reviewing both Standard and Wild on a 5-star basis, with 5 stars being a god tier card that's in every deck, and 1 star being unplayable trash you would hate to see in your arena deck. So let's get going. We have a 4-mana 3/3 Rust Sworn Cultist. Death Battlecry, give your other minions Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 demon. So it's like a neutral Soul the Murlocs for 4 mana with a 3/3 body. This is actually a pretty good card. I can see this seeing play in token decks that just want more token generation, more protection, but only those decks. But it's really not that bad, especially considering it's a neutral minion. I think it'll see some play in Standard as that type of a minion, so I'll give it a 3. In Wild, this is way too slow. You're never doing that. You got better stuff to do. I'll give it a 1 in Standard. Next, we have Ethereal Og Merchant, a 1-mana 2/1 Battlecry. Deal 1 damage to a minion and give it spell damage +1. There's a bunch of minions like this that have this effect, but give a different buff. This one's spell damage +1. I think it's the worst of the bunch. Not particularly strong to give a minion spell damage, especially on this effect. The deal 1 damage to minion's fine, but I'm not really sold on this card. In Standard, I'll give it a 2, and Wild a 1, because, I mean, what are you doing in Wild with this? Like, nothing, right? Next, we have Infectious Sporling. It's a 1-mana 1/2. After this damages a minion, turn it into an Infectious Sporling, so it turns it into a 1-mana 1/2. It's like a neutral polymorph. It's actually a really cool card. You give this a rush or something, and you can remove almost everything. You have synergy with like Magic Carpet, and one of the next card I'm reviewing gives minions rush. So I don't know. It could see limited play as like a neutral polymorph, and it's cheap. It does require a 2-card combo, but maybe you just play it on one they can't deal with it, and you just screw them. It's really interesting. I love the design. I think it's really cool card. I'll give it a 3, even though it probably won't see play. I just think the card is so cool. In Standard, I'll give it a 3. In Wild, absolutely not. This is never, ever happening. I know it's like you'd go into a Void Lord or a Void Caller, and maybe you play this in Odd Rogue where you play Magic Carpet, but I still don't think you'd do it. I still think that's a pretty weird answer, but maybe. So I'll give it a 2, just for that Odd Rogue possibility. But the card that really goes with it well is here. This 1-mana 2/1 minion, Rocket Og Merchant. Battlecry, deal 1 damage to me, give it rush. This card's nuts. Like nuts. Because it can kill 1 health minion. It can give anything rush. That's just so good. It's so good. You can play this in any aggro deck, any tempo deck. Just a super solid card. I'm actually going to give it a 4. I just think it could see play in so many different decks across the board. Like, the effect is crazy. The stats are fine, even if you have to tempo it. Like, really crazy card. And in Wild, I still think it could find a way, like in an odd deck. Just it's got to find play somewhere, right? Maybe. So I'll give it a 3. It's just such a crazy strong card. Like, wow. Next, we have Soulbound Ashtongue, 1-mana 1/4. Whenever this minion takes damage, also deal that amount to your hero. So if you're doing the self-damage thing in Warlock, you might want to run this. You're just playing an aggro deck that literally does not give a flying shit about taking any damage. You play 1-mana 1/4. It's pretty good. And for that reason, I'm going to give it a 3. I think this is playable. Yes, it could be suicidal. Like, oh, a warrior with 40 armor has shield slam. You're dead. Well, it's still it's a 1-mana 1/4. You win the board early. And if you're playing an aggressive deck, you don't care about your health total. So I'll give it a 3, and the same in Wild. Like, you can play this in Odd Paladin, you can play this in Odd Rogue. I think it's probably fine. So 3 across the board in both Standard and Wild. Just a crazy aggressive card. I think people are sleeping on this one a little bit. And we have Rustworn Initiate, 2-mana 2/2. Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 Impcaster with spell damage +1. Feels like an arena card, nothing spectacular. Yeah, it's a 2-mana 3/3. Both bodies are underwhelming. The spell damage, I don't know what you're really going to utilize it with. Pretty meh to me. I'll give it a 1 in Standard, a 1 in Wild. I don't see it doing much in either format. Then we have Blistering Rot, a 3-mana 1/2 minion, so terrible stats. At the end of your turn, summon a Rot with stat equal to this minion's, so it will continue to make a copy of itself every turn as long as it lives. But the stats are terrible, right? Well, Embiggen's a card, and I think Embiggen Druid doesn't have... A lot of the cards kind of suck, like, they're not amazing. And I know it's not a dragon, but I think Embiggen can make this work, because that's a 4-mana 3/4 that copies itself for 4-mana 6/8. We've seen that in the Wild version in Nax, the 2-mana 1/2. sees play in the wild version. I think this can see play in that deck. I'm going to give it a 3 solely for that reason. And if it's not in that deck, this card is absolutely dog shit terrible. But for that reason, I'm going to rate it as playable. So I'm going to give it a 3. In wild, absolutely not. The Embiggen Druid's not doing this ever. They have better cards, and yeah, it's too slow. It's not seeing play. So 1 in wild, but a 3 in standard. I think Embiggen Druid will actually use this. Next, we have Frozen Shadow Weaver, 3 mana, 4/3, Battlecry, freeze an enemy. It's not bad. It's a 2-star card in standard, but like, you're never really going to hard run this. I don't see it. It's good stats, good effect, but like, yeah, it's just, it's not accomplishing enough. So I'll give it a 2 in standard, and in wild, it's a 1. You're going to run Glacial Shard if you're ever going to run a freeze effect card. It's just better than this. It's cheaper. That's all you care about. And even that card's not that good. So I'll give it a 1 in wild. It's just not going to see play. Next, we have Terror Guard Escapee, a 3 mana 3/7 demon. So pretty good stats, right? Well, Battlecry, summon 3 1/1 Huntresses for your opponent. That's a pretty big downside. A lot of other tempo-based decks can really utilize the minions well, especially with Demon Hunter coming in. They like killing off minions, and giving them a bunch is not going to help you. And yeah, the downside is not worth it to get a 3 mana 3/7. I don't see it. It's just not worth it. I'm going to give it a 1 in standard, and definitely a 1 in wild. Like, you're just not really anything you're doing with this in wild. Yeah. You gonna Void Caller it out? Ooh. I'll take my Void Lord. You play your Terror Guard Escapee and cheat that out. We'll see how that works out, right? And we have Burrowing Scorpion, a 4 mana 5/2 beast. Battlecry, deal 2 damage. That can go face. If it kills the target, gain stealth. So if it kills your opponent, you get stealth. It's like BN, but it's an okay aggressive card. It can minion trade and get stealth, which is pretty good. It can go face, but the damage is kind of weak. The body's fragile. I don't think his card's worth running. It's not terrible, but it's not good enough. It's a 2, and in wild, again, anything in standard that's not quite good enough, and it's like, what are you doing with this? Is just garbage. So I'll give it a 1 in standard. Or in wild, I'm not impressed. Speaking of not impressed, we have Disguised Wanderer, 4 mana 3/3 demon, garbage stats, death rattle, get a 9/1. That's hilarious. It's terrible. I'm giving it a 1 in both formats. This card's just god-awful, but it's kind of hilarious, I guess. Next, we have Felfin Navigator, 4/4 Murloc. Battlecry, give your other Murlocs +1/+1. This card's really good. Any Murloc deck in their right would run this card. Anytime a Murloc deck is good. So you have like the Murloc stuff going on in Paladin right now. You still have Murlocs and Shaman in standard. Cards could go in that deck. It's good. I'll give it a 3. And in wild, you have Murloc, Paladin, Shaman as well there. They're not bad decks, and this card's great in it. So I'll give it a 3 there. It's just a really good card that'll see play in Murloc decks. How can it not? It's almost premium stats, and the effect is really good. Just a super good card. And we have one of my favorite cards of the set, Waste Warden, a 5 mana 3/3. Pretty mediocre stats, but Battlecry, deal 3 damage to a minion, and all others of the same minion type. If you're facing Treant Druid, screw the Treants. They're all dead. They take 3. It can hit pirates, Murlocs, everything that has a tribe, it will hit. Outside of lackeys, which makes me sad because they're not really a tribe. I wish it would. And it will hit your own minions if they happen to share the same tribe. It's just a really cool tech card. I don't think it'll see play. I just love the design. I think it's really cool. I'll give it a 2 in standard. I'll give it a 2 in wild, even though I don't ever see it seeing play. I guess you could really shit on Pirate Warrior, maybe, but their pirates usually have more than 3 health at that point. But I just think the design is really awesome. I love cards like this. And yeah, it's a tech card that might see play, so I'll give it a 2 across the board in both formats. Next, we have an arena card, Dragon Moss Skystalker, 6 mana 5/6 dragon, death rattle, summon a 3/4 dragon rider. Like I said, it's arena card. Yeah, I mean, it's just stats. It doesn't do anything. I guess you could get it off Dragon Queen, you could discover it, but 1 star standard, 1 star wild. I don't see you doing anything with this in either format. Speaking of things you're not doing anything with, Scavenging Shivara, 6 mana 6/3 demon. Oh, the stats are terrible. Must do something insane, right? Battlecry, deal 6 damage, split amongst all other minions, including your own. It's fucking terrible. Holy shit. 1 star standard, 1 star wild. I think this is the worst card of the set. Wow, is that bad. Next, we have Bone Chewer Vanguard, 7 mana 4/10 taunt. Whenever this minion takes damage, gain +2 attacks like Gurbashi Berserker type. Thick taunt, it's expensive. The bonus, like, it's cool, but I don't think you're playing this. I don't think you're gonna resurrect this in Priest. It's good, but nothing special in Standard or Wild. But, you know, kind of cool. So, in Standard and Wild, I'll give it a 2 across the board. Not terrible, but I don't think you're ever running this card intentionally. Next, we have Rust Steed Raider. 5 mana, 1/8 Taunt Rush. Battlecry, gain +4 attack this turn. So it's a 4/8 when you play it. Or 5/8, sorry, when you play it. And then it's got a terrible stat line after. Rush and Taunt just don't go well together unless it's named Ziliax and has Lifesteal and Divine Shield and Magnetic on top of it. And you got Faceless Corruptor. You just got better stuff to do. You're not playing this card in either Wild or Standard. It's a 1-star in both formats. Next, we have Bone Chewer Brawler. 2 mana, 2/3 Taunt. Whenever this minion takes damage, gain +2 attack. It's like a Monty Berserker, but you can keep buffing it if you keep it alive. And it has Taunt. Premium stats, Taunt, Upside. Still not really good at C play. I'll give it a 1-star in both Standard and Wild. I don't see this being anything. Now we have Overconfident Orc. 3 mana, 1/6 Taunt. While at full health, this has +2 attack. So when you play, it's a 3/6 Taunt. That's a Fen Creeper. That's really good. Jeez. And then when that takes damage, it goes down to 1 health attack, but still a 1/6. It's just incredibly powerful. And it's reminiscent of like Tar Creeper and arguably better. It's just a really good card. This is a 4-star card. This will see a ton of play in Standard. Like, it's just a great anti-aggro card. And plus, you can just play it in an aggressive deck just to control the board and protect your minions. And if you're in Priest, you can heal it up and it gets attacked. Like, super good card. I'll give it a 4. In Wild, it might see play in, like, a Reno deck, maybe. I think I could see Fringe play in, like, yeah, Reno decks. Maybe Reno Warlock. Maybe not. It's more... Actually, you know what? It won't. It's good, but, like, when's the last time you saw a Tar Creeper in Wild that in a deck that actually wins games? So, I'll give it a 2, but in Standard, I think it's very powerful. So, yeah. Interesting. Next, we have Guardian Og Merchant. 1 mana, 2/1 minion. Battlecry, deal 1 damage to a minion, give a Divine Shield. I don't think it's as good as the Rush guy, but it's very good. This card is very good as well. It's like a neutral Argent Protector, as long as your minion doesn't have 1 health, and it can remove minions. Flexible, and it's well statted. Really good card. I'll give it a 4 in Standard. It'll see a ton of play, I'm sure, in the aggressive decks. In Wild, it's a little bit slower. And in Wild, you play a lot more 1 health. Like, you play Patches, you play Pirates, a lot more of that stuff. I think it's a lot more vulnerable at killing your own stuff than it is in Wild, so in Standard. So I'll give it a 2 in Wild, but it could see play. It could be a 3. I might be wrong on that one. Next, we have 8 mana, 12/12. Whoa, crazy stats. Supreme Abyssal, crazy. Can't attack heroes, terrible. 1-star, Standard, Wild, terrible. Can't attack heroes, can't go face. You have to silence it, and that's too slow. So, terrible. And you're not making an 8 mana play to make a big minion with Taunt. Like, that's so slow in either format. Unplayable garbage. But you'll summon it randomly sometimes, and then it'll get sack-packed. Next, we have Scrapyard Colossus. 10 mana, 7/7 elemental with Taunt, and it has Death Rattle of getting another 7/7 with Taunt. It's pretty good, but expensive. Very weak to removal, but if you can cheat it out with like an Anka and Rogue or something, or like Elemental Evocation, maybe that's good enough, but I don't think so. I think it's too slow even in Standard. I'll give it a 2. In Wild, it's beyond slow, but maybe you run it in your Darkest Hour Warlock, or you summon it in Big Shaman or Big Priest or something, so maybe. I think there's better minions in that pool, but maybe not. It's got Taunt. That could be relevant, so... I'll actually give it a 3 in Wild. There's just so many ways to cheat giant minions, and maybe this is better than Colossus of the Moon in some ways. Like, you might run this in those greedy big decks. Next, we have Replicatotron, a 4 mana 3/3 mech. At the end of your turn, summon a neighbor into a copy of this. So all the magnetic stuff is rotating into Wild. All the hand buff stuff, there's not a lot in Standard. And this card is just crap in Standard. It's a 1-star card. I just don't see it. Like... You play it and you make your totem or your token a 3/3. It's decent, but like the original body sucks, and then you have to buff it, has to live, has to snowball. Don't see it. So 1-star in Standard, but in Wild you have tons of hand buff stuff, especially in Paladin. You can discount this. this can snowball out of control. This could be 1 or 0 mana or whatever, and it's buffed. It's like a 5/5, and then it makes your crappy little 1/1 into another 5/5, and then you buff that, and then that'll buff and switch over and switch over. I can actually see this being a realistic card in hand buff Mech Paladin, and it gets out of control. I'm giving it a 3. I think it'll see play. Just with the hand buff, the discount, the mana cheat, it's kind of spooky. It could be really good, but mostly just in Paladin. And now we have Magtheridon, a 4-mana 12/12 dormant minion. Battle Cry, summon 3/1/3 enemy warders, and when they die, you destroy all minions and awaken this thing. So it's like a Deathwing effect for 4 mana with the body, but you gotta work for it. If your opponent has more than 4 minions, you won't get the 3 warders, so this won't activate. If they transform them in any way, this won't activate. If they shadow step it, it won't activate. And then if you do activate it, pretty much every deck in the game has to be able to deal with a big threat, such like Edwin Van Cleef, because he's going to be there till the end of time, apparently. And it just won't really work. But the board clear effect's strong. I think it's too much work for it. You do have stuff like Flame Ward, Hellfire, Plague of Flames, things like that to make it happen. But when you have to work that hard for something like this, that just can get immediately answered anyways, I don't think it's worth it in Standard. So I'm going to give it a 2. In Wild, absolutely not. Like, anything this slow, this clunky, in a hyper, degenerate, aggressive mode like Wild, it's not going to see any play, so I'll give it a 1. But yeah, in Standard, potential, but I don't see it. There's not, like, a combo that I've seen people meme or talk about that just makes it worth running. Now we have Imprisoned Vilefeed. This is a 2-mana 3/5 demon, so amazing stats, but it's dormant for 2 turns and has Rush. Just feel like this is a card to demonstrate what Dormant does. It's okay, it's good, but you're not playing this card. It's not enough. So I'll give it a 2. In Wild, absolutely not. Way too slow, unplayable, garbage, 1 mana. 1 mana, 1 star. Talk about mana too much. Next, we have Maiev Shadow Song. It's a neutral legendary. 4 mana, 4/3. Battle Cry, choose a minion. It goes dormant for 2 turns. This card's insane. Absolutely insane. Spellbreaker just got Hall of Fame. This card is Spellbreaker on steroids. Because, like, Spellbreaker silences a minion, but the body's still there. This silences a minion. It goes dormant for 2 turns. You can't do anything with it. That's insane. It's an auto-include in, like, so many decks in Standard. It's 5 stars. It's just neutral, hard removal for 2 turns. They can't do anything with the minion. And when you're playing an aggressive deck or a tempo-based deck, you either kill them or you gain a huge advantage from it. It's absolutely crazy powerful card. I'm surprised it's not 5 mana. It's so good. Auto, must craft. Crazy card. In Wild, 5 stars too. Like, you need silence for Void Lords and things like that in aggressive decks. Well, this goes right in there. And the beautiful thing about Void Lord, when you silence it's annoying, the body's still there, they can cube it, bring it back. They can't do that when it goes dormant. The 1/3s don't come out, it's just gone. So the card is just insanely strong in any format. 5 stars across the board. Holy crap, this probably gets nerfed at some point, or maybe not. They want this effect. They want this Hall of Fame Spellbreaker. I don't know. Don't try and make logic with Team 5 decisions. Ah. Next, we have Alar. We had an auto-craft legendary. We have an auto-disenchant legendary in Alar. It's a 5-mana 7/3 elemental. Terrible stats, so it's got to have a good effect, right? Well, Death Rattle. Summon a 0/3 Ashes of Alar that resurrects this minion on your next turn. Well, that's a 0/3, and if it dies, it doesn't do anything, and it's gone. So the 7/3 is super fragile. It's gone. The 0/3 is gone. You just spent 5 mana, and all your opponent had to do was deal 6 damage. Wow. It's terrible. Don't play this card. You open it, disenchant it, most likely. Unless there's some... I don't know. Just bad. Standard, 1 star. Wild, 1 star. Don't open this card. Hope it's the last legendary you open, okay? Then we got Moarg Artificer, 2 mana 2/4 demon. All minions take double damage from spells. That includes your own. You can, like, combo this with, like, Flame Strike, Lightning Storm, something like that. Do a bunch of damage. Kind of cool. Interesting card. It's not going to see play. 1 star in Standard, 1 star in Wild, but it's kind of neat. It's kind of cool. But yeah, not going to see play. Then with Kel'Thas Sunstrider, the card that was released early for all of us to play and see how completely broken it is in Druid and Wild. It's also broken, for the most part, in Standard. I've already seen people utilizing it in Quest Druid, in like Big Spell Mage, and that will only continue as more big stuff is made. I really feel like this card should read, your third spell you have cast this turn costs 0, and that's it. The fact you can chain this card is insane. It is so powerful. In Wild, it is 100% a 5-star card. It's just like, it's going to keep breaking the game until they fix it, which I hope they do. And in Standard, I'll give it a 4. The broken ability of it is not quite there yet, but it still can break the game and do crazy stuff. So 4 stars in Standard, 5 stars in Wild. And then we have Terran Gorefiend, 3 mana, 3/4 neutral legendary. Battle cry, destroy all friendly minions. Death rattle, resummon them +1/+1. Pretty good in like egg deck, stuff like that. But oh man, is it risky if it gets like silenced or, I don't know, Maev'd. Yeah, I think it's too high risk for the reward. And there's not enough like good death rattle stuff in Standard to make it worth. So I'll give it a 2. It's not terrible. The stats are obviously good, but man, killing off your own board and then just having it just gone by like a sap is just brutal. And then Wild, yeah, there's too many transform effects. There's devolves. There's just so much stuff that just screws this card. So I'll give it a 1 in Wild. And that concludes the neutral review. That concludes our entire review of Ashes of Outland. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to make all these videos. Please give me any and all feedback on the reviews, so maybe next time, the next expansion, we can change things up or do things you liked from this set. So please let me know in the comments below what you liked about the reviews, what you didn't, and I appreciate all positive and negative and constructive feedback. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow with the next video, and stay salty, my friends.